My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Shooto. And this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review because I will be going in depth. Just a heads up, I've been out sick for the past week, and this is the first review I'm filming since I felt better. So if you're just like, wow, Gavin sounds sick, or why does his cough sound absolutely horrible? That's why. I'm still getting over it, but I feel good enough to do this review. Now, to be fair, this was a movie I was watching when I started to get sick, so about 3/4 into the movie, I started to get really sick, so I still wrote notes while I was watching it, so I remember enough of the movie. But honestly, if I didn't write notes, I don't know how much of this movie I'd be able to review because this is a very forgettable movie. But let's talk about the biggest positive. And the biggest positive is that the main character's name is Bob Lee Straggle. That's right, his name is literally Bob Lee Straggle. His last name is Straggle. Like, that's hilarious. I love it. What an amazing name. Like, could you imagine if this turned into a franchise and it's called the Straggle franchise? Like, that would have been hilarious. I kind of wish they did it just for that purpose. But aside from that, there's not a lot to love about this movie. From the very opening, I knew this movie was going to be a mess because this movie begins, it's Mark Wahlberg and his partner, they're on a mission. You know his partner's going to die, and they just don't establish this relationship whatsoever. So when his partner inevitably gets killed, I was just like, like that moment lacked any sort of weight. And then Mark Wahlberg shoots down this helicopter, and then as soon as he shoots it, it instantly just goes ahead in time. And it's just like, wait, what? That's where the scene is ending? Are we not going to see him deal with what just happened? Are we not going to see how it affected him? No, they're like, nope, let's just cut to the, let's just skip ahead. So then we get 36 months later, and it focuses on Danny Glover's character, and he's looking for Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg is out living as a lumberjack out in the mountains, kind of like X-Men Origins Wolverine, but this movie came out first, but I saw X-Men Origins Wolverine first, so not fair to this movie, but yeah, kind of like Wolverine in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He's living out in the mountains, and then Danny Glover is trying to recruit him, and he's like, no. So then Danny Glover gets back in his vehicle, and he's just like, the answer was yes. He just doesn't know it yet. And then Mark Wahlberg's just like alone, and then he just thinks to himself, yeah, maybe I'll do it. And within 20 minutes, all this stuff happens, and it's just like, slow down. Like, take some time to breathe. Just let things marinate for a bit. Because the movie's moving at this rapid pace, and it just doesn't need to. Like, all this happens so very fast, and like, you just don't feel like you have a clear idea of who this character is. This movie isn't setting the proper groundwork. Because after watching this movie, Bob Lee Straggle has zero character to him. He's Mark Wahlberg. That's his only personality trait. That, and I guess he has Straggle, but that's only due to his last name. But then after that, it goes into this plot where he's supposed to stop an assassination attempt on the president, and then he fails, and he ends up on the run, and then just as the movie progresses, it goes more and more into convoluted nonsense that I couldn't have cared less about. By the end, it becomes about this Africa massacre and this war on the other side of the country, and I just hate when movie stories do that. You get it a lot in thrillers in the 90s, where this person's on the run, and then they try to have this complex plot tying everything together, but there's no connection to anything going on. It lacks any sort of personal angle. In an attempt to be this big, complex web of lies and all that, you just get something that no one cares. Like, if they just had something small, something that was more personal to the main character, then I would be more on board. Like, his partner dies in the very beginning, and yes, we see his sister played by Kate Mara, but that really doesn't come into play at all in the story. Like, what if the main villain was the guy who killed his brother? There's some sort of personal angle, but this movie doesn't have that. There's also another character played by Michael Pena, and I'm going to be honest, Mark Wahlberg and Michael Pena, it took me a while to get on board with their performances here. Like, for the longest time, I couldn't take them seriously. Eventually, I got somewhat on board, but they're still not good in this movie. And lots of the movie does focus on them trying to figure out who set Mark Wahlberg up, and it's just doomed to be unsatisfying because we don't know the person. So whenever they figure it out, it's just a name. It doesn't mean anything because we don't know that character. It could have been literally anyone. And this villain just lacks any sort of presence throughout. There's nothing to them. It's just a villain for villain's sake. And that's just so uninteresting. I know lots of political thrillers are like this, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. Like, this movie is very formulaic and it does nothing new with the genre. But worst of all, it's not even entertaining. Like, if this movie didn't take itself so seriously and it was able to have fun with the ridiculous nature of it, I'd be more on board. But my goodness, this movie is 2 hours and 7 minutes. It certainly didn't need to be. It's a pacing nightmare, like I said, because the beginning is so rushed, and then the rest of the movie just slows down to a halt, and it's just all wrong. Just everything that this movie's trying to do, they do a bad job at it. The action in this movie is actually pretty good, but there's not nearly enough of it. The movie sets up the main character to be this amazing sniper, and I wish we got to see that on display more often, because it's such like a defining character trait of his. And when it's going down, I'm just like, okay, that was good, but I want more of that. I feel like there could have been some really intense and thrilling sniper sequences. Also, I'll say there's this one bit of the movie that takes place on the mountain near the end, and the CGI in this moment is awful. Like, you can tell that this is a green screen. Like, it looked really fake and really bad. But yeah, this movie just didn't do it for me. It takes itself way too seriously to have any bit of fun with it. The plot is just convoluted nonsense. There's nothing to the characters. It lacks any sort of emotional depth. Pacing wise, it's just a mess. With the exception of the main character's name being Bob Lee Swagger, there's not many other reasons to watch this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and give Shooter a 4 out of 10. Shooter? I hardly know her. Okay, but what did you think of Shooter? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.